what if gravity had no effect on you? So this is it's not everybody. This hypothetical is just you personally.
Just you.
Just
no
you.
objects are affected. Your clothes aren't affected.
Yeah, your clothes and objects still have gravity and effect, but just basically the mass that makes up your body is not attracted by gravity, is not affected by the forces of gravity. So I think for me, the first and immediate problem is balance, because you are now a floaty boy and it's hard to stay upright. So I wanted to check, would you just be like dizzy all the time? Because there's 3 ways that your body figures out its balance and orientation. Is 1, visual, so you look around and your brain processes that. 2, your muscles, so like the weight of shifting between your feet and stuff like that. So your body has like some of that built in. And the important one is your inner ear. So in your inner ear is basically like a little globe or bowl or whatever with liquid in it, and based on how that sloshes around with the gravity, like if you turn your head, it'll move up one side of the bowl and get lower on the other one, and your brain can pick that up and say, oh, now I'm leaning that way.
It's basically like a level with a little bubble.
Yeah, that's a much better analogy than my bowl and liquid. Imagine a bowl of tomato soup in your ear. So if gravity's not affecting your inner ear, your body is going to get all sorts of weird signals, which often causes nausea. And so I was like, well, how does that work? And then remember that people actually go to space and this actually happens to them. And so it turns out what happens with your inner ear is that for a couple days, your body hates it. And you can be dizzy or motion sick and all the regular stuff. But then after like those 2 or 3 days,
actually really quickly,
your body just...
one thing in those 2 or 3 days, I think I saw that was related. Apparently, some astronauts reported that in this period, sometimes they will, like, when they're sleeping, they'll wake up and not be able to figure out where their arms and legs are, like, in relation to the rest of their body. Apparently, like, that gets screwed up, too.
Weird.
Which I thought was just, like, super weird. I had to interject that, so continue.
Yeah, so after 2 or 3 days, your body adapts and basically just like, okay, that part of my balance is not working. I'm just going to literally ignore all the signals from the inner ear from now on. And then after that, astronauts can't actually get dizzy when they're free floating in space anymore. The guy was actually like, came up as one of those like NASA questions where like the astronauts try to, AMA type thingamajigs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he did was the astronaut just got up, like curled up, and then just did like as fast as he could, like a million front flips. And like just in the middle of the room spinning, like cartwheeling, and then stopped. And he's like, okay, so I was like lightheaded, like slightly for like half a second, and then it went away. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I'm like watching you and about to barf. So your brain just basically like, this isn't working, and it just relies on the other senses of sight and
muscles,
your muscle balance. So you won't actually be nauseous all the time, which is a great start to this question being positive.
Right.
But doesn't mean that balance is easy. So I think the biggest problem you're going to have is just carrying things. So normally when you carry something, your center of mass, is your like right in your stomach, and then you carry something and it shifts slightly and it's not a problem. But if you weigh nothing and you're carrying something on your side, your center of gravity is wherever the thing is that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And what basically it means, if you draw a free body diagram, which is kind of a funny term when your body is free from gravity.
Right.
But we're saving that one. Is if your thing that you're carrying is outside of your feet, like your footprint, you fall over.
So you basically have to hold everything right above your head. Like, exactly above your head.
Or hold 2 matching things to either side of you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And like, so when I first thought about it, I was like, okay, so you just have to hold things between your feet. It's not that big a problem. But that's 2D. In 3D, your feet create just a line. So you basically have at most your foot width the center of gravity has to be directly above it or you fall over. So I think you're basically fucked carrying anything. Like, even carrying things on either side of you, like, it has to be 100% perfectly balanced, and you don't have your inner ear to help you out with that. So I think you need some kind of, like, Doc Ock contraption to give yourself, like, either tripod it or, like, more legs, like a centaur type thing. And then you can carry things within that footprint. So yeah, basically whatever shape you can make with your legs or supports is what you can hold.
Oh, you should have a walking stick all the time.
The problem with the walking stick, Ben, is that you're still gonna fall over.
But it will tether you to the ground at least. You just hold on to the walking stick.
How do you hold the walking stick?
Yeah, like you're gonna put it down.
You have to pick it up somehow. Usually you pick up a walking stick and then put it down, then pick it up and then put it down.
You can do that works.
But every time you pick it up, you're gonna be very off balance. I don't think
that's true.
It just doesn't work.
You need one of those like rolly walking things. I don't know what they're called.
A walker?
Yeah.
But like a baby one with wheels.
Right.
Oh yeah, you could get one of those seat things that babies have with the wheels where you can just walk in the seat.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. The little like the little scooting things. Yeah.
Yeah,
like strap you in
go.
kind of type thing.
Perfect.
There's ways around it, but it was just the image of like you just picking up literally anything and falling over was great for me.
It is pretty incredible.
I mean, as long as you don't have to pick anything up, you're fine. You just float around.
Yeah, well, it's kind of tricky too because if you're floating around, You have to like tether yourself to the ground, or you might end up like in space.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if you're wearing clothes, your clothes weigh you down a little bit, right? Just a little bit.
Yeah, just don't push off the ground too hard.
Yeah, don't push off the ground too much. Don't get caught in an updraft.
Right.
Speaking of trying to balance, wind is kind of a problematic addition to your balance equation. So obviously you're trying to resist this overturning spin that, an off-center weight will get you. Wind is going to really make that equation pretty complicated for you to do manually, because a good gust of wind is just going to like knock you over, because a big component of you standing upright in a windy zone is you have this really big, 150-pound downforce that you can wiggle around and adjust to counteract the wind. So without that, there's actually a whole bunch, there's a maximum wind speed that you can be around before it just knocks you over.
So if you stand perfectly perpendicular to the wind, are you okay?
Perfectly perpendicular
No.
to the wind. Why would that make you okay?
Parallel to the wind, excuse me.
Oh.
Well, whichever way it's hitting you, it's going to blow against your body and push you that way.
I mean, you'd be able to brace against it better, but you'd still have a problem probably.
Yeah.
But you can't brace because you have no weight to brace with. Like, the way you brace against the wind is you lean into it.
That's true.
But you'd have like an A-frame, sort of, is what I'm saying.
The A-frame doesn't really help you.
Yeah, it doesn't actually help you that much.
It just tips you over still.
Yeah.
Because the A-frame works if there's a center of gravity away from the center of it.
That's why it works.
If you have no weight, the wind just blows you away anyway. So you need some kind of weight to resist it at all without being just like a tumbleweed. And doing it out, assuming the way it works is basically for every 10 miles an hour of wind, you have about 1 pound per square foot of wind pressure that's pushing you. And so the human body, taking a very rough estimate, is about 10 square foot in area. So if you have, say, a pretty fast wind, like a 40 mile an hour wind, you're going to have actually 40 pounds of force pushing on you. And if it's centered, the wind force is going to be about 3 feet off the ground. So the way the free body diagram works is basically you need to cancel this spinning moment of 40 pounds at 3 feet. So 40 times 3, 120 pounds. And what you're going to do is basically your foot is going to be counteracting that. And if your foot is 1 foot away from you, which is fairly reasonable, you're going to need 120 pounds to counteract the 4 times 30. So you basically need to be carrying triple the weight of the wind in order to not get knocked over by the wind.
Okay.
Which is doable. In Boston, the windiest major city, the average wind speed is 12 miles an hour. So on your basic day, you're carrying around 40 pounds.
Yeah, that's doable.
I mean, and it's 40 pounds, you don't have to carry your self-weight, so I think carrying 40 pounds is actually pretty easy. You just have to remember to do it.
Right.
Or else you're going to end up in a different city. You might have a different wind speed. But if you're in, say, a thunderstorm with 40 miles an hour is actually like at regular thunderstorm speed, you'll need to be carrying 120 pounds just to not get blown away.
That's less doable.
That's less doable. And never mind like actually like hurricane force winds. But you really shouldn't be outside in those anyway, especially if you're weightless.
What if you're a weatherman?
Don't
be a weatherman.
You can pick any other profession, just don't be a weatherman.